So the final reset of Dragonflight is here, and War Within is just upon us. So these are some War Within hotfixes going into effect as the reset hits today. Here we go. Preservation Evoker has some issues fixed where I guess their rank 2 renewing breath was not increased. Was not increasing the healing over time portion of the dream breath. Okay, well that's fixed now. Mages with weekly maintenance, arcane intellect reduced by 3%. Reduced to 3% was 5%, so I guess the intellect buff taking a little bit of a hit there. Interesting. Fixed an issue causing consecration coolness PvP talent to not function properly. Okay, well there you go. It's a PvP thing. That's why I don't understand what it's talking about. Paladins fixed a bug preventing holy power spenders from stacking up Radiant Glory Crusader when they cast with Divine Purpose. So I guess that was some kind of little backwards stacking ability that Paladins had. They shouldn't have had, so that's been taken away. Fixed an issue as well where Retribution Aura persists on old characters. Now that is gone. A few little bug fixes here with Nitro Boost Belt and Rated Battlegrounds Breaks resolved an issue where the Absorb Shield of Protection was no longer. Okay, that's fine. Yeah, great. Chaos Bands reduced by 3%, increasing magic damage was 5% for Demon Hunters as well. Missed that at the top there. So there you go. Couple little things to start out the day. Oh man, there it is. Interrupting the news for the final time. This is the day, guys. Tomorrow, August 21st, the giveaway ends, the Epic Edition. How do you get in? You just got to watch 1 hour of my crappy little stream on Twitch, and you can get a point to enter. You still have time. August 21st stream will be available to get some points. We'll be announcing the winner at the end of the stream. Get yourself early access, pets, mounts, and everything else your degenerate soul craves. That's right. So get in here, check it out, and be the degenerate you truly are. Boys and girls, base edition, epic edition, it's all here, just waiting for you. So come on in, get that hour in, and get your epic edition. Okay, moving on. Mythic Plus Legion transmogs were a thing, and now they're back. If you don't remember, there were some limited transmogs. They were only available for a limited time during the Mythic Plus season, and now they're back. So for all of you transmog hunters, yeah, get ready and get excited because a lot of these things are coming back, and some newer things are coming back as well. So below are some new weapon drops added to normal and heroic mode for these dungeons. While some of them are reused models from previous instances, others are entirely new and unique. And some of the weapons, like the Ravencrest Wrath and Skovald's Resolve, sport appearances previously only usable by NPCs. So let's check this thing out. Yeah, we know the Ravencrest Wrath. This was available a while back, and it was only for the Mythic Plus season. Now you can go back and get it. Howling Echoes, probably one of the cooler looking weapons, honestly, that I've seen in a while. I mean, it's basically a scythe, a double-handed scythe, so who wouldn't want that? Crux of the Blind Faith, nice little staff there. We got the Edge of the First Blade. Okay, this is a pretty cool Suramar-esque weapon. The Corrupted Knot. This is literally just a death machine. I've seen this before, and yeah, there's nothing really to it other than it's going to bludgeon people to death. The Hate Sculpted Magma two-handed axe. This is a pretty nice one, actually. We got the Rod of the Crystal. Okay. Monstrous Gluttony. All right, yeah, very old god-esque, very nice. Actually, very Shaw-esque, I should say. Fenrir's Bloodstained Fang. Yes, we know we're going to get that off the Fenrir boss. Key of Halls. And then this one, Skovald's Resolve. It's a cool-looking shield, actually. Haven't seen this one. Nice. Again, some of these were only available to NPCs previously, so all of you transmog hunters who've been wanting to get some of these, this is your chance to get in and get some of these once again. Once we're limited, no longer limited. As you guys may know, we are in the final hours of Mists of Pandaria Remix. Yes, when Reset hits today and the servers come back up, guys, Mists of Pandaria Remix will be over, and Reset is going to be a little bit longer today. It's a 7, 8, 9, 10, a 5-hour reset. Oh, man. Okay, so we got a 5-hour reset today. You'll be waiting. When servers come back up, your Mists of Pandaria characters will be transferring over to their real-time servers. So what should you be doing in these final hours here? Recently, Blizzard has hotfixed vendors, including the Ensemble of the Chronomancer, to include the Ensemble of the Chronomancer Regalia. So make sure if you missed that, you go ahead and get it. Otherwise, this is just a reminder. Everybody double-check your remix vendors. See if you forgot anything, including ensembles, mounts, toys, or pets from Pandaria that you want to get, because once the event ends, supposedly they'll be gone. That's right, Furicus is going to be transferring over. So make sure you guys get those things. Little PSA from Mr. GM as well here. A nice little smart tidbit. If you're still in need of bronze, scrap everything. in Mists of Pandaria Remix, you will get a fresh set of gear when your Time Runner is ported over to the live servers. So yeah, essentially you should be naked. Just sell it all. Don't keep any of your gear. There's no reason for it. It's not coming with you. Put it all in the scrapper and change it over to currency and try to use that currency to buy as much as you can. Sam abandoned Furicus. Is that a good look for his parenting? True, true. Okay, last but not least here, a Wildcast developer chat was about storytelling. Came out the other day, and this was just a couple hours ago, actually, talking about how they're turning around story building and world building in World of Warcraft for the War Within and the World Soul Saga as a whole. So let's check this out real quick, see what it's all about, and get any comments in if we have any. It's a loud intro. I like these Wildcast episodes.
Welcome to a special edition of Wildcast. Thank you so much for joining us today. The team is heads down on wrapping up the expansion ahead of launch, but today we are joined by a few incredible guests. Please introduce yourselves.
Hi, I'm Maria Hamilton. I'm the Associate Design Director on WoW.
Hello, my name is Morgan Day. I am one of the Associate Game Directors working on The War Within.
I'm Taryn Gregory, the Cinematic Narrative Director for World of Warcraft.
So how does the team even approach something as ambitious as the World Soul Saga?
In a word, enthusiastically. We have a really unique opportunity here with the 20th anniversary of World of Warcraft that's fast approaching. We really wanted to take a step back and reevaluate how we develop our expansions. In the past, we might have come at it from the perspective of, well, we've done this a couple times. How did we do it in the past? And moving forward philosophically, we really want to take a fresh new approach and take our community's excitement and feedback and really make sure that's at the forefront of all of our development moving forward. We wanted to build upon the successes of Dragonflight, right? We felt like we built a really strong foundation there and take a lot of those successes.
Foundation, basically how I would describe Dragonflight. It's a foundational expansion. Probably the best things that came out of Dragonflight, I don't know, dragon riding? I'm trying to think of what else was great that came out. Oh, the currencies, maybe the crest. There's some issues with crests, but I do think overall the crest system's pretty good for upgrading things, pushing your gear into Mythic eye level in case you never do Mythic rating, that kind of stuff. So probably the two best things that came out of Dragonflight. There are some changes I feel like that still need to be made to the crest system, but overall the intent of it is pretty good.
And look to achieve.
Yes, actually, Rad, great point. The talent changes as well. I actually think talent trees are in the best spots they've ever been. We'll see how hero talents add to that. But yeah, talent trees are good. And for people who love professions, I guess professions had a pretty good change as well in Dragonflight.
New goals as we move into the World Soul Saga and the War Within. Some of those ideas would be allowing the players to have new ways to express themselves and make sure that there's a ton of variety in the content that they're experiencing in World of Warcraft. Additionally, we want to make sure that we're bringing World of Warcraft to as broad an audience as possible, and we're really working to build new accessibility features and also just new exciting ideas that we also want to bring to the table. Finally, guiding us and crafting this epic adventure is the narrative, right? That's at the forefront of all of our ideas and all of the stories that we're developing along the way. We always like to plan ahead when we're developing World of Warcraft, but this time is a bit different, right? It's multiple expansions all at once that we're really trying to plant the seeds for these future ideas as we move forward in the World Soul Saga.
Right.
And
that sounds promising. I mean, yes, story does matter. I know there's a lot of people out there, I just play the game, I don't give a shit about the story. No, in reality, a lot of people, these same people who say, oh, I just play the game, I don't care about the story, are also ones who are complaining about how lovey-dovey the story has become. So clearly the story matters. A good story motivates players to play the game. A good story makes you feel, good about doing the things you're doing, puts reasons behind what you're doing. And even an overall arc, like Gul'dan killing Varian, like that motivated me. I wanted to do the raid. I wanted to go into Nighthold and kill Gul'dan because of what he did. It was part of the motivation behind it. Just made it feel that much more epic. And so far from what we've seen in The War Within, Iridikron's story carrying over, Xal'atath as a villain overall, it just feels like there's more motivation behind the things we're going to do, and it's excited. It's scattered. I don't know. I feel like the storylines become pretty central. If you're talking about Dragonflight, yeah, maybe Dragonflight was a bit scattered. Yeah, I think they were just trying to wrap up things and get things going in the right direction for the World Soul Saga overall. Yeah,
at times,
you're talking about Dragonflight's story. Yeah, best thing about Dragonflight was Plunderstorm. Yeah.
I've been in meetings with our creative
Controversial
direction
comment
group,
there,
and
Mara.
it can be a bit of a challenge to keep all of these ideas in my head all at once. There's a lot of threads that are flying around, but I think the team, is really energized by that opportunity to kind of tell such an epic story. And thankfully, Taryn is here, and he's going to talk a bit about all of those awesome ideas as we move forward. And he's kind of the expert of pulling all of those threads and bringing them all together.
It's kind of like the conspiracy meme sometimes with the dots and the
Where you're right in the
threads.
What are you most excited for, Taryn, with the War Within story?
Well, working on World of Warcraft is always exciting.
Yeah, absolutely.
I love working on this world and with this team. It's been really, really, really exciting getting to work with Chris Metzen again after his return and setting the vision for the World Soul Saga, this new chapter of Warcraft that's going to take us through.
Jesus Christ, the freaking blurps. Unbelievable. That scared the shit out of me. I was going to say, Chris Metzen, by the way, it seems like he's decided not to do any of these interviews. I feel like he's trying not to take the sunshine, the starlight away from anybody. He's kind of letting the other guys still do all the talking. Yeah, wrong timing. Good one, yeah. Goofy Goober, rock. Okay.
Next few updates. As Morgan mentioned, right, like during Dragonflight, we feel that represented a lot of change, a lot of lessons applied, lessons learned. Looking back on Shadowlands, I believe that we took a lot from that story and developed new ways that we were going to present our characters, our villains, our storylines. And Dragonflight was the first step, but I believe that War Within is a great leap forward in our ambitions to create a compelling narrative, bring our characters to the forefront, and really open the first chapter in the next pivotal moment of World of Warcraft that will set the stakes for the story that will unfold throughout the World Soul Saga.
What would you say are some of the narrative aspirations of the saga?
Well, I feel that we've set the bar really high, and we want to meet those expectations and even exceed them. Really trying to create something in the vein of the essence of Warcraft, or the best of Warcraft, bringing that to the forefront. The ways we're going to do that is really investing in our world and story. We always say world and story are some of the most critical parts of the appeal of World of Warcraft. But what does that really mean? Our world is a character. It is fleshed out through all means of small stories, big stories. But we want people to be invested in our characters. We want them to go on the adventure with them, to learn more. I believe we have some really compelling stories with some of our most known characters, some of our lesser known characters, and some new characters that we're going to meet along the way.
Something that I love about the World Soul Saga, and we were talking about the 20th anniversary earlier, is that's a really unique strength of World of Warcraft, right? We have characters that you've literally grown up with, right? Like at the launch of World of Warcraft, Anduin, I think, was literally in a crib, right?
He was a little boy. He was a little boy.
Have you standing in Stormwind, you'd click him and he'd be like, "Have you seen my father?" That was what I still remember those days. And when Varian returned, and Anduin has literally aged. He's right. Anduin has aged throughout World of Warcraft like year by year. Exactly. Like how many games have the opportunity to age a character 20 years over time throughout an actual length of time of 20 years? That's pretty crazy when you think about it. And yeah, he's aged. All the other characters have aged. We've seen characters die, come. That's why I'm kind of scared about what's going to happen with Khadgar. Honestly, I feel like he's a classic character now, and I don't want him to die. But we'll have to see. Yeah, that's very unique to World of Warcraft, to have a game that's lasted that long and character development that's lasted that long. Even though it's gotten scuffed at times, right? Yeah, we've had some bad character arcs for sure.
My father?
Yeah, exactly. And we've watched him grow from, that boy to the boy prince to now the king that he is today. And this journey is going to continue to take characters like Anduin and continue to see them evolve, and others as well. Like Dagram plays a huge role in the War Within, and that's another character that was just a little baby when we started out, and they're going to be taking a much larger role in this epic saga.
Yeah. I think another lesson we learned is, cadence and delivery. There were some instances where it felt maybe like the story was very start and stop, or people had to wait around for a long time for resolutions to long-established storylines. And so in trying to address that, we're really looking at the saga as the opportunity to resolve more storylines, bring up new questions, drive the story forward. And one of the things that helps us do that now is the improved content cadence that has been established in Dragonflight. This gives us some really, really handy tools for being able to have smaller updates between larger updates, in which we can have the story move forward. We can focus on individual characters, flesh out their.
It's been good. Say what you want about the character arcs and the all the hugging and the kissing and things like that. Overall, Dragonflight did give us a good content cadence, and yeah, we're saying your name over and over, cadence. It did give us a good amount of basically smaller chunks of content between the larger patches and things like it gave us events like Plunderstorm and MOP Remix, and so it did give us a lot to do. You can't say that Dragonflight was a bad expansion in terms. It was not WoD in any way where we just ran out of things to do. There was always something to do in Dragonflight for the most part. So I hope they continue that cadence and actually maybe even speed it up a bit, give us even more, which would be great. But so far, Dragonflight was a really good step in the right direction when it came to how much content they would give us.
Stories more, or even just give the sense that the world is always moving forward and that there's something always new to see in World of Warcraft when it comes to our narrative.
Speaking of characters, Xal'atath is everywhere. She is amazing. What do you think about our new villain?
Xal'atath is very much an interesting character, and I'm super excited to see the reception that people have had since we announced that she's going to be, very much starring in the beginning of the War Within. When it comes to our villains and the development of our villains, we have learned many lessons. We feel that maybe there's been a couple instances where we didn't quite do the work to earn them out or introduce them to our players in a way that felt organic or compelling. Xal'atath is an opportunity to have this character that, for those who played Shadow Priest and Legion, it was a very compelling character. She's marked very, very highly in terms of kind of fan favorite, but also lesser known. And that's kind of a magic combination of hey, let's take this character and bring them into the spotlight.
One interesting thing about Xal'atath that I think a lot of people don't realize is she is one of the few villains in World of Warcraft that has been developed, tried and true through WoW. Right? We've had a couple. 2 of them were pretty good. 1 of them wasn't that good. And by developed in World of Warcraft, I mean there was no foundation laid for them in the original Warcraft RTS games, right? Lich King and Legion and Sargeras and all that. Those guys have been around forever in the WoW storylines. But then you look at somebody like Garrosh, showed up right in Nagran the first time we saw him. He was developed in World of Warcraft. Unfortunately, so was Zoval, and we can forget about that. But yeah, he was a miss. And now we got Xal'atath, tried it, developed through WoW, came up through the MMO, and she's looking like a better developed storyline, right? I think they learned their lesson with Zoval in terms of when you give us a villain, don't just attach him by the dick to one of your better villains. They ruined the Lich King lore by trying to attach him to him to make him cool. That was a bad idea. We just want a villain who has some good character arc stories. Iridikron is one of them. He's been pretty good. Xal'atath has been really good. And seeing those characters develop throughout the game, understanding their motivations, not just keeping it a stupid secret the entire time, and eventually reaching that pinnacle where we somehow fight them. Maybe we don't win. I don't know. That doesn't matter. But so far, I will say she's a pretty good villain. I like where she's going.
And give them a really compelling arc. And much like we had done throughout Dragonflight in the development of the primal incarnates like Iridikron and Viranoth and Farak, we put a lot of effort into bringing them into the story one step at a time, introducing them to the player, giving them compelling motivations, making them a dimensional character, making their desires, and making them real people that we can understand and get along with. And Xal'atath is now on her own trajectory to step into the limelight of World of Warcraft, and we're hoping to meet all of those same things. And I really feel that Xal'atath is going to be a very interesting character as we watch her story unfold.
I've been quite both surprised and excited by the reception of Xal'atath. I think having kind of those foundations where there's some of the community that's like, oh, you're just getting to know this person, where other people have, like Taryn mentioned, have been kind of questing with her or experiencing her story in the past. And there's also a lot of really fun stuff and opportunities as we are able to plan so far ahead now, where we can plant these seeds knowing, this is the destination. And as we're moving towards that direction, what are things that we can kind of plant? And maybe the players find them, maybe they see it, and maybe they don't. There was some text that showed up in Dalaran where they were talking about oh, wait a minute, that's new. What's going on here? And they were kind of piecing together some stuff.
One thing
Oh, by the way, don't trust this fuckboy. Where is he? Yeah, this guy just showed up. I think he's a Dreadlord, personally. He just showed up all of a sudden back on the console, and everyone thought he was dead for the longest time. Yeah, don't trust him.
That we set forth to do was mid-Dragonflight, in the spirit of wanting to seed these stories sooner.
There's also a coin from Xal'atath in the pond if you fish in Dalaran right now, too, that you can get.
have people along for the ride
Don't
to
trust
notice
them,
the little details. And there was this moment with Eridicron when he was escaping through a portal, and in development we had just slipped this little shadow, elven silhouette in the background of the portal, and a lot of people were like, no one's ever going to notice that. And we're like, that's the idea. The idea is that it's so subtle that when they discover it, it's going to generate all this conversation. And it did,
Yeah, it
right?
did.
There was all this conversation about Xalatath, and everyone started to get really excited. And so that kind of started building a slow burn on everyone getting Xalatath into the conversation. So by the time she was announced at BlizzCon, it actually felt like, oh, yes, we've been expecting this.
Obviously.
Obviously, right? So it's just fun ways that we're trying to seed and plant and prepare the audience for what's ahead.
I think one of the things that makes Xalatath really, really interesting for players is there's an awful lot of them that want to be her buddy, who don't see her as a villain.
Yeah, we want to be more than her buddy. I think she knows that.
Right? So no villain is the villain of their story. They're the hero of their story. And that makes this interesting, too, because we can play with that a little bit. We can make sure that we're leaning into it. Is she really the villain?
So the world is just as important as the villains. Maria, what approach have you taken for world building?
I mean, as Taryn pointed out, and I think we've talked about in the past, the world really is one of our main characters. And it's really important that when we go into these different zones that we've created, they feel alive, they feel appropriate to their cultures that live within them. Unexpectedly, perhaps, we decided to make this a very vertical expansion. So we're starting off on the surface in the Isle of Dorne, which has your classic
great.
plains, your beautiful grasslands, and big city, Dornegal. This is where our Earthen live, trying to carry out the edicts of the Titans. And this is where the Coreway is located. So
I am glad they decided to put our hub city above ground. I think it would have been a horrible idea to put it below ground because, we are going underground, and yes, Hallowfall has a crystal that looks like a sun and stuff like that, but something about just being underground for a whole expansion doesn't feel good to me. So I'm glad that we're going to be in Dornegal a lot of times, above ground, seeing the sunlight and stuff, because God knows the players themselves are not going to be going outside much in real life.
So we go down the
So we need our
Coreway
virtual
and
sun.
we get down into the Ringing Deeps. And the Ringing Deeps is where the machine speakers, the Earthen that are dedicated to tending the machines and the vast works of the Titans live and work. And so where we're really starting to subvert expectations is when you go from the Ringing Deeps into Hallowfall. It's a huge, huge area. You can't tell that it's underground. You can't tell that it's a cavern.
can't wait to
It's
go
lit
there.
by this enormous crystal. And then as you descend, you're going to go down into the last kingdom of the Nerubians, into Aj-Kahet. And this is all about danger and dark elegance. And the whole area is meant to serve as an opportunity to learn about the Nerubians and their big city there.
I have high hopes for Aj-Kahet. I do hope that it takes on kind of a Suramar-esque role in the expansion. I think Suramar was one of the coolest and most lively cities that they've ever made in World of Warcraft. I love that place. I actually enjoyed doing dailies there and stuff. So I hope that Aj-Kahet kind of takes that on. Now, if you look here, right here, what are you hiding? It looks like we've got some NPCs that are patrolling the city. So odds are we're going to be spending a lot of time in here, hiding around, doing quests, doing all kinds of stuff. We do know there's a reputation attached to some of these Nerubians, so I think it has potential to be a Suramar. Hopefully it lives up to that.
Which has been built upon centuries and centuries and centuries of decay. They just build the city on top of itself.
Yeah, I wouldn't have expected that going vertically down.
Yeah, it's one of the things that we learned from Zaralek Cavern in Dragonflight. We knew we were making an underground space. We knew we wanted players to be able to transition seamlessly into that space. The idea was to sort of give you this increasingly wondrous, joyful descent, and make the world really feel alive, make it feel like it fits with those cultures that are living there. The reactions that we saw from people playing on beta when they first entered Hallowfall, which is just amazing.
Yeah, I love the attention to detail in all the zones. I mean, you just mentioned Hallowfall, but something that it took me a while to even notice it, but when I did, it blew my mind was, like you mentioned, there's that huge crystal underground, and it's the sole light source. So if you look around the zone, all of the trees and the plants are actually facing that light source. Like if you think about plants out in the world, they kind of follow the sun. Well, what if the sun was static?
We have a desire to help make everything feel right. Everything needs to feel like it makes sense. So for the Arathi, they have these airships, and so all of their tables and chairs and props and things that are scattered around their city, they all have these brackets on them because they would have
nail
been
'em
mounted
down.
on the airships when they traveled. Another good example is
Pretty
the
cool.
earthen. So the earthen are made of stone, and they're
Can I just say, is like, as far as an allied race or added race to the game, the Earthen are kind of, you know, they're not the most exciting. I was surprised by all the customization they have. There's a ton of it, and you guys will see it when you get in here and start making them. There's a lot to the Earthen. That's pretty cool. But overall, like, you know, one of the less exciting races that we've gotten, probably. If we get the Horny or whatever, they're going to be much cooler, for sure.
and their beds, entertainingly,
Yeah, humans are the
look
best,
almost like a barbecue because they like to be warm. So there's fiery coals underneath them on their beds, and you can see them.
One of the other things I love about the earthen is they actually have these like memory crystals, because they themselves are almost more of a construct, but this memory crystal has, you know, their experiences, their memories, their, you know, life story in them. And early on in the campaign, we learn about that memory crystal. And Dagran, who's quite the little tinkerer, finds this fascinating, and there's like a whole quest line where you get to learn about these memory crystals, and you kind of put them back in the archive, and you get to learn about this culture as you're kind of experiencing through the lens of these memory crystals.
And then for the Nerubians, we have a really funny local story, a really funny sort of take on what would happen if you encountered a Nerubian who had a fear like arachnophobia, but they're terrified of bipedal creatures because they don't have enough limbs, and it's just creepy, and it freaks them out. And there's so many more examples. The team really had a
Funny.
great time building out these cultures and these stories.
One of the things Morgan mentioned earlier was making it easier for players to play the way they want to play. How is that being reflected in the content we're building?
Yeah, I mean, we certainly learned a lot from Dragonflight. One of the
Dagran seems like an antithesis to the Dark Iron. I wanted to kind of say that, read that out, High Tide, because I kind of agree. The Dark Iron to me hit me as like this very blunt force, you know, we're going to forge everything out of, you know, iron and just bash everything in. And then Dagran comes across as like this, oh, you know, I want to be intellectual and everything. And to be fair to him, he's only half Dark Iron Dwarf, right? He's only a halfer. So well, I guess we'll see how he plays out. But yeah, he's certainly not like the, you know, the typical Dark Iron Dwarf that you would expect. Yeah, grit and iron is what you expect, exactly.
areas that we started to improve on and now have continued is some UI improvements around both the icons on quests in the world, but also the quest journal. We've got some cool filtering that will let people find the kinds of quests that they're looking for and the kinds of activities. We have some great UI elements when you hover over markers on the map that let you see what sort of reward there might be and how much time it's going to be before something starts for events, for example. Additionally, with the introduction of warbands, we know that players may not want to play the story over and over. They may choose to play it on one of their characters and then play other things. And so we've made sure to provide a lot of local stories. These are stories that tell more about zones themselves, tell about the cultures in those zones, tell about the places, different individual smaller
great animation.
characters. We've provided those in a slightly greater number than we had in the past. We are making sure that we're using some of our new features as well to help tell the story. So we have been quite cognizant of the concerns that players who don't do a lot of raiding have raised about wanting to see that final moment. And so we're allowing players to do a story mode version.
I mean, damn, though, if you couldn't do LFR, what the shit are you doing? The LFR, you can literally just finger pop yourself the whole way through it. You don't even got to think about it. What is it? I mean, I understand, okay, you put in a story mode, fine, whatever, that's good. But did people really need that? Were there people really not able to do LFR? LFR is trash. Yeah, but that's what it was the intent behind LFR was just to let people see the content. But I guess people still weren't seeing the content. I don't know. So this thing that they added is like a story mode raid where you go in, you don't need to really be in a raid kind of thing. It just forms up a group, I guess, and you just go in and see the story. People, you can't really die. But LFR's content Sam should be doing. Yeah, I don't know. I'm shocked. I was kind of shocked by this, that some people still wanted a way to see the raid, and LFR was not considered that way.
version of the raid to have that final fight without needing to
Maybe I'm
go
not
to
the
the
target
trouble
audience.
of getting a raid group or finding, enough friends to go defeat that boss. Same thing with dungeons. We added follower dungeons that allow people to play by themselves or with friends, and followers that are controlled by the computer. Delves is a new feature that we're really, really excited about. It's intended to help those outdoor players be able to pop in and do something fun and meaningful, and maybe they only have a short period of time. Now, Delves also have a progression system and a whole bunch of other stuff associated with it, so we want to make sure that everybody gets a chance to understand and enjoy the story in the way that they like to play, recognizing that everybody doesn't have as much time or opportunity to sit down and, join a big group of people.
Nice.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the major goals, is not only with variety of things that you might be familiar with, like a lot of the cool outdoor events that you might have seen, and we want to make sure that you can kind of pick and choose the ones that you find exciting and you feel rewarded for those without feeling like you're kind of required to do everything.
It's a big
And then
boy.
with Delves, that's a new pillar of content that we're building, where you wouldn't previously have been able to kind of experience this idea of like progression, but also building upon the story that we've been discussing.
I do hope delves do become part of the game. They're trying to. I could tell with all the feedback and the way they're trying to balance classes out and everything. They're trying to make it a core part. I mean, it's literally part of the vault as well. So the reason why I want it to be is because it's it's like that little 10 to 15 minute piece of content that doesn't currently exist in the game. Because, as I got freaking 3 kids, a 4th on the way, I'm married. Sometimes I got like 15, 20 minutes to get down here and play some WoW, right? And right now, that content doesn't exist for me. Like, there's nothing in the game that I could do other than a daily or a mount run or something that's like a 10 to 15 minute window like that. And I feel like delves are going to be that. Like, oh, hey, I got like 18 minutes real quick. Let me run a delve real quick. Yeah, it sounds like it's gonna be that kind of time content filler, which is nice because we don't have anything like that right now.
There's a big bad in there named Zekvir, who's kind of a lieutenant of Xalatath, and this person's in charge of looking for the world soul memories that we're going to be learning more about as we progress through the War Within, and you'll eventually be able to unlock this Zekvir's lair, which is, I kind of equate it to like Onyxia's lair.
well-
So there's this big boss at the end of this experience that really feels like it's kind of the cherry on top for this progression, as well as this story that we're telling as you experience Delves.
What's one thing you guys are excited for players to experience?
Oh, I think there's just some fantastic local stories out there that are helping sell some of the themes that we're exploring. We also have a fascinating situation where Anduin, who has had some pretty tough times and is doubting himself quite a bit, comes face to face with Farron, who is a great contrast. She's very strong in her faith in herself and in the light, and the two of them meeting and having this opportunity to talk to each other. I think this is also a really key and important moment.
I'm right there with Maria. I'm just excited for people to get to meet these new characters. And there's a lot of like really fun story, not only with those individual characters, but also the cultures that the team has been building. A fun little detail, which isn't a spoiler, is you actually see these like lynxes that the Arathi in the zone are riding around on, and that's like a fun kind of nod to how when they set out, they actually went with some elves, and there's almost like this blend of cultures that are coming together in this zone, and it's really fun to kind of see all those little details as they express themselves in the game.
I think it's always an exciting time as we draw closer to the launch of an expansion where all of the content is going to be added to the game, even stuff that was obscured or hidden during testing or PTR. This classically represents the cinematics that the team has been working on for a long time and have some really amazing moments. I think the team has done amazing work on this, and I can't wait to see people's reactions to that content. And also, from all directions, every tool in our toolkit, we release more multimedia projects. I know that just recently we saw the story of Queen Ansarek in the cinematic we released, and that's in this vein of trying to build up our villains, give context, give backstory, give dimensionality, and seeing how things are stirring. And all of these different projects are coming together to really amplify and excite around the story of the War Within and set the stage for the ongoing World Soul Saga.
Thank you guys so much for joining me and talking about the World Soul Saga and the world building of the War Within.
Nice. Yeah, overall, You know, the world building and the world within and all that, I think they're doing a good job so far, but we're gonna find out a lot more in a couple days, really. I mean, all this build up and everything, that's fine. But how good is it gonna be when we actually get it? And are the servers gonna be stable? We'll find out all of that real soon as we get closer to the War Within launch and everything. I'm excited for it. Hopefully good things to come.